Greetings, everyone. Welcome once again to the Oz and Crew Reviews podcast. I'm your host, Ozzy. With me, as always, is my co host, Mad Matt.
Hello.
Joining us again today is our good friend, Test Zero.
Hello.
And surprise special guest completing the old outhouse crew that we used to have is my friend Ojunix.
Hello.
You know, the one guy here that doesn't really have an internet presence, that's never had a YouTube channel. But it's nice to have you
It's
around.
it's
I,
another
I,
outhouse meetup.
I wanted to be I wanted to be special.
That's why you're a ring wraith eating a Twizzler in the thumbnail.
Yes. Nom 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 nom.
The Twizzlers. Is it a Twizzlers or is it another offshoot brand?
It's a red vine.
Red vines are delicious.
Sorry, guys.
Don't choke on your red vine. Today we're going to be talking about Kentucky Fried Movie, which might possibly be the oldest movie we'll probably ever cover on the podcast because it's from 1977.
Oh, don't say that. I can
I
treat
mean,
you
if
to
you want to
1920s
challenge that, I'm
movies.
sure we can find plenty of.
I'm
Other
I'm
movies to
sure
take a
I'm
look
sure
at.
I'm sure we can find other stuff that's older at
I
some
would-
point, but
I would love to treat you all to Metropolis. It's my favorite 1920s film.
oh geez.
I have Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
Well, let me rephrase that.
I have that too.
Let me rephrase that. We're not likely to do many movies that are older than this.
I'll agree to that. Not many movies, but there's some good ones still.
Right. So, I think we were saying that I feel like this movie might have kind of been inspired by like Monty Python's Flying Circus with the format and the humor.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
format, the tongue in cheek, the humor styling in particular, but also the tongue in cheek format where it would also very often make fun of television and movies.
Yeah.
There's a very much of a satire, and this movie is a satire. It's kind of a farce, but it is a. You would have. I'm pretty sure that this is like a grindhouse movie. This is the kind of thing that it is not supposed to be classy. It is supposed to be blue comedy. It is supposed to be dirty. There's tits everywhere. This is the kind of movie that you would show at a midnight movie, at like a triple feature. That you show up at midnight and you don't leave till like 4, and it's just people watching the dumbest, funniest, fucked up shit. Because this is the kind of and like old kung fu movies really kind of started to take off in the 60s and 70s, and they were showing a lot of private theaters that they just wouldn't be able to show mainstream stuff that time of night. So they'd have kung fu movies, they'd have blaxploitation stuff, and this kind of movie would fit in perfectly in those kind of theaters.
Yeah, matter of fact, it would actually be a nice little like hat to hang on for the night. After all this other crazy stuff, we just give you a comedy movie to just kind of joke along for the last half hour, hour and a half or so. What was this? 80 minutes?
Yeah,
So
83 minutes.
hour 20.
Yeah. So Matt can't really do his usual plot synopsis because it's a series of skits, and you're not
It's an
gonna.
anthology movie.
You're great at doing at taking a movie plot, breaking it down, but like memorizing all these skits in what order they happen. No, that ain't happening. We're gonna go
I do
skit
have
to
a list.
skit. We're gonna go.
Yeah,
Fistful
we
of
might
yen.
skit.
we're
You could
gonna
just do fistful of the yen.
we'll get to that, but we're gonna we'll go through these in chronological order to discuss them. Although one thing I did want to mention, because we were looking up information on this, I realized I don't know if it was maybe the original idea for the name of the movie or if this is what they called it in other countries. But apparently, one of the other potential names for this movie was Hamburger Film Sandwich, which is like because there's one main feature that's 30 minutes, while like I think the longest one aside from that is 6. So it's like that's the middle of the movie, and all the other skits are like the bread on the burger.
Yeah, what I think has happened is they basically wanted to make a comedy kung fu movie, but then as they're writing the script or they were going through the budget or whatever, they realized they only had about a half hour worth of material, and you can't really show half hour films as a feature film. You have to show it as a short, or have to show it as an independent. So they're like, well, we can make a bunch of other sketches, and they can act those as a bookend, and they kind of cram them together. So you have your main meat, which is the Kung Fu parody, but then you have it double breaded on either side with about 20-25 minutes on either side of just random stuff, just random sketches, and there you go. You have an 83-minute feature film.
Here's a 4-second clip that the boys came up with. We're just going to impersonate the news. Okay, works. Put it on.
And do that about 4 times.
Yep.
Yeah, speaking of which, so the very first skit was the 11 o'clock news.
Part 1.
Part 1. Where they had they had the running joke where they're trying to get the reporter on scene for this teachers union strike, where like he's clearly not getting like the news feed with them trying to talk to him, so they're talking to him and he's not responding, and he just randomly starts picking his nose and scratching his ass as like a gag. And I think we've all seen that happen. Not the nose picking and stuff, but where
the extremes, but yeah.
But where they try to cut to somebody and they're just not hearing what's being said, so they don't realize they're on to talk.
Mhm.
I think we've all seen something like that happen on the news at one point or another, because there's just, with live filming like that, there's just technical difficulties.
In the early 2000s, when they were like doing a live feed from the Middle East, that there's like 20 seconds of satellite delay, so they're just standing there with going their heads like, just waiting to respond. Like, oh yeah, we're absolutely here now.
But then there's the weird horoscope moment where she's just telling, I can't remember all the yags, but she's just telling like these horrible things that are going to happen to you based on you and your family, based on your sign, and then she just randomly gets hit by an arrow, which becomes a running theme for the rest of the movie.
Because I believe the last
Geminis.
Yeah, they must all be Geminis, because that last gag was that she's like, expect the unexpected.
Message for you, sir.
Which is another thing, is Monty Python and the Holy Grail came out before this, so I fully believe that was probably inspired by that.
That was probably partially the message for you, sir, mixed with a bit of Hinsdale.
So everybody,
for like 2 seasons, that thing just showing up and shouting Hinsdale was a thing.
So all Geminis are just getting messages.
Oh yeah,
getting unexpected messages. Your message is you're dead.
The fact that they had a horoscope segment on the news, that's actually kind of interesting, because that's the kind of thing that they would obviously have in the newspaper, and of course they would have weather, they'd have sports, they'd have that, but the horoscope was the one thing that they never did, which is kind of surprising. Even on like a morning news kind of morning zoo kind of show, because they had the animal segment, so it's not really intended to be hard hitting news. It's just supposed to be kind of a morning.
I think though that horoscopes like are more associated with like newspaper than like the actual TV news, and for the most part, at least in more recent times, anyhow. The final bit of the whole news skit was when they had like a lady on there from, I don't know if it was like some sort of animal preservation thing or if she was from the zoo.
Some sort of Australian animal preservation or something, yeah.
Yeah, she's got like a little hamster or gerbil or whatever it was. And,
I think it was a hamster.
They have this cute moment.
The Wonder Hamster.
Yeah, they have this cute moment, and then she's like moving on and just chucks it over her shoulder, and it has like this gorilla come out.
Yeah, they proceed to insult it.
Yeah, because
he's just a dumb animal. He can't hear what they're saying.
He's unable to produce offspring. He's useless down below, and freaks out.
The gorilla. Yeah, you can look at the gorilla's eyes. He's just like, bitch, what did you say?
Like I think like the final thing that sets him off is they imply that he might be impotent, and then he just starts beating the shit out of everyone. And the whole rest of the skit is that they keep trying to cut to another news segment where he interrupts by breaking through a wall and beating the person up. It's just absolute chaos, and it's like, well, that's a good way.
That's commercial. Into which we get to the oil.
Yeah, that was a good way to start. I believe that was a good way to start the movie. That's showing you how fucking random this movie's gonna be.
Oh, And yeah, and of course, again, as we mentioned, the shtick with the arrows. So that's just going to be something that pops up every like 15 minutes or so, just to catch you off guard.
Yeah. And then the next one was what was it supposed to be, like some sort of
Argon oil.
public service announcement or something about
It's
argon
just
oil?
a guy going into a car and his alarm's going off, and he has to.
That's actually his new car, which is a couple segments down the road. No, this is the one where they're talking about the different methods of collecting oil.
Yeah, from people's hair, their face.
The faces of teens off of combs and
American
greasy food.
Yeah.
And we did get to see the Kentucky Fried Chicken in the Kentucky Fried
one
movie.
little box.
They
Yeah,
didn't actually show the logo, but you can clearly tell it's the kind of buckets.
it's the old school box. Yeah,
Yeah. Because in spite of the
They still
name,
use.
in spite of the name, I'm sure they didn't actually have any sort of deal set up with KFC.
yeah. No, not for something like this.
But then, yeah, the guy who enters a car, there's multiple alarms, so he's trying to do everything to turn them off. But he puts a seatbelt on, he locks the door, and then he's like, and then he looks down, he zips up his pants, and then the alarm stops.
Oh yeah, that's the last one right after the.
Oh yeah,
the
you
gorilla
realize
smashes the camera.
I actually did this out of
You
order.
you grabbed the AM today right after the 11 along with
Yeah, the
11
11 o'clock news part at the very beginning was
It's
actually
really 4
just,
seconds.
it was just him saying that something about the popcorn has been urinated
Popcorn
in.
has been used.
Popcorn has been urinated on. Film at 11.
Yeah, then they cut
Argon oil, and then into the regular newscast thing. Which
ends with-
then the gorilla smashes the camera, and then we go to the guy in the car, and multiple alarms going off, one thing after another. He locks the door, puts in the key, zips up his pants, and finally all the alarms stop.
We're taking longer describing the segment than it actually was.
kind of yeah.
Oh, and then there's the next one.
Catholic high school girls in trouble.
And
In case you have any doubts about what type of movie this is.
Yeah.
yes, it's just
All the
like,
shots.
yeah, all close up, all grabby, and it doesn't hide a thing.
Oh,
and
soapy
cartoony sounds to just highlight that this is supposed to be
Yeah.
goof.
The cartoony sounds, or where they just randomly show a girl as it's happening, like slamming into like a shower glass door, so you see it squishing against the glass repeatedly.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we call this exploitation films, kids.
Yeah, that
Well,
was
specifically, this is a parody of sexploitation films because it is done kind of in an over-the-top fashion. It's done as like they're kind of doing it in a tongue-in-cheek way, or tongue in something at least. They're sort of like, well, yeah, this is the movies and we got tits in this movie. So, I mean, I guess it's like you get what you come for, or there's probably a better way of phrasing that as well. But
man, you're just stepping into the innuendos by accident.
stepping into something. But yeah, it just like I said, this is really kind of just a grindhouse movie. It is not intended to be taken seriously, but like you show this with a couple of guys that have maybe had a couple of beers and maybe some girls too. You probably have a blast with this movie. You don't go in expecting anything classy, and this is actually a really fun dumb movie.
So then the next skit after that was the feel around segment, which was kind of it was a parody of the dumb kind of gimmicks movies,
Like 4D stuff, yeah.
like smell-o-vision and stuff like that, where this guy goes into a movie theater to watch a movie that's some sort of romance or something, and you go in there, you see him walking down to get to a seat, and you see there's like other people in there. It's not like packed, but there's like a few other people in there, and every single person watching the movie has an usher standing behind them, which is immediately making you go, what the fuck is going on with this? And then
it's not an usher walks up behind him, and then the movie begins. And everything that happens on screen suddenly has a representation of what the usher does to the man, spraying him in the face with perfume, rustling up his hair a little bit,
blowing cigarette smoke in his face.
blowing cigarette smoke in his face, and then it starts to get crazy as I forget what's happening. Oh, she finds lipstick on his collar, and then all of a sudden the man behind him is grabbing him by a collar and lifting him almost out of his chair completely,
shaking him,
ruffling him out, holds him up by knife point, and as he's panicking about being possibly cut by knife point, the female lead on the movie finally gives in. And I believe this one ends with them finally going, okay, that's it for this one. And if y'all want to stay for the second video, we're about to show Deep
Deep
Throat.
Throat.
And as the usher starts to smile, the man quickly gets up and runs away.
Yeah. All they were missing in this segment was Lars, the professional ass wiper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the disappointed look on the usher as the man runs away.
He's the guy who likes his job.
Another one.
The next skit was relatively short, and I think we actually talked over most of it because we were. I can't even remember what we were talking about, but it's basically a gag about headache medication that cures your headache overnight, but then they just can't wake the person up in the morning. They're slapping him, like dumping water on him. He won't wake up. It's just over the top, goofy segment. There's not really anything we can say about it because it was only 35 seconds.
What I was thinking about was the next one. Yeah, that was a very short one. Yeah, 35 seconds. So after that,
We got the boom mic.
oh, the boom mic. Yeah, High Adventure is what it's called, and basically the entire skit is based around the boom mic just doing random things, bumping into people's heads. Suddenly dunks into a pitcher and drinks the entire pitcher of water.
He detects that the guy is having a heart attack.
And so you hear his heartbeat suddenly stop. The other guy resuscitates him and is held up against his heart for a few moments just to make sure it goes back to normal. And then as they finish the skit, the man who nearly had a heart attack gets his cigarette out, but suddenly realizes he doesn't have a light, to which the mic just moves in, flicks, and lights up to help light up the cigarette. Before moving on to the next bit.
A very dedicated boom mic operator.
Yeah,
like that thing is impressive.
That thing has I have some extra gimmicks that most don't.
It's one of those things we can't really say too much about because like all the gags are all things you have to see.
The gags are all visual, really.
Yeah,
they're all visual gags.
Then there's another 11 o'clock news 5-second segment that just basically
missiles and flames and missiles are flying towards New York City.
Basically a nuclear war news broadcast. And we've already talked about it longer than the segment itself. So moving on. Headache clinic. This is weird. So not even that far after another thing about a drug that cures headaches.
Mm-hmm.
They do this joke about a thing called Sanhedrin that just gets rid of your headaches, and it shows them going into a clinic where they're doing stuff to give people headaches so they can test the medication on them.
It's also hosted by Bill. They'll call me Bruce Bixby.
If you want to test like air sickness or like motion sickness, you have to induce motion sickness in the person first. So
yeah, it was just banging the person's head against the wall. Another one, they're like tapping them on the head with like a tiny hammer. This is weird. Matt, you want to read the next one?
Next one, household odors. Commercial household deodorizer that claims that you cannot buy it. Guess will tell you what your house smells like. Guests will tell you that your house smells terrible in a variety of humiliating ways.
Yeah, this is like kind of the classic 1960s housewives. Like she has their girlfriends over, and they all make snarky comments about her house.
Yeah, one of them walks in, fish for dinner.
Which is like that's the kind of thing that you would see on one of these commercials. It's just like,
why does it smell like cow dung?
Like, oh my god, I need to clean my house better. And so
it's just like the last one just ends with, "Did a cow take a shit in here?"
Again, that's classic rule of three comedy.
Mm-hmm.
You have two kind of mundane examples, and the third one is just completely over the top. They do that a lot in this movie, as you'll see later.
Then we get to one of the weirder ones. This was kind of like this one was kind of just like not saying it wasn't funny, but it was kind of awkward to watch until it got to the punchline, where it's got a black couple that are trying to get romantic, and they're listening to
a record.
Was it Barry Manilow or something?
I joked it was Barry Manilow. I'm not sure what it was. It was just some sort of
probably couldn't make out what it was, but like
I think the record itself is just like it's like the how-to guide.
How-to foreplay
They're
thing,
getting
yeah.
Yeah,
the
it's
narration
it's
from
literally guiding them, and then he starts screwing up. He hasn't gotten his pants off fast enough when it's already moved on to the next step, so he just starts tripping all over the place, making a mess out of everything.
Yeah.
It's just a series of weird mishaps until it gets to the point where
The dude.
uh, I'm
the dude-
trying to think of a way to say this that won't get the freaking video flagged.
He's done early.
He finishes early before they get
Yeah.
started. So that like as a backup, the recording sends in Big Jim
Jim
Slade, who just
Slade!
breaks through the door. This big muscle,
Kansas City Chiefs.
yeah, this big muscular black guy in a thong
Big old
Tight,
speedo.
who has his own theme music when he enters the room.
It's like it's
Jim.
like picks up the woman. It's like he'll finish the job for you.
Yeah.
Backed by a vigorous choral rendition of the song Evu Salam Electrum.
I have no idea.
Yeah. So then he carries her off, and the guy just kind of like sheepishly waves as they're leaving. Then we get to the main focus
Yes.
of the whole film, A Fistful of Yen, the name of which is obviously a parody of the Clint Eastwood Western A Fistful of Dollars, in spite of the fact that it's actually a parody of like a Bruce Lee movie.
Yeah.
It is very much Enter the Dragon. As a matter of fact, it even says so in the descriptor.
Yeah, pretty much.
It basically, as someone who has seen Enter the Dragon at least 3 or 4 times, it does knock off all the major plot beats. It knocks off all the major scenes. They just basically cut to the chase as fast as they can while also being tongue-in-cheek with a whole bunch of stuff going on. They do it, again, here 31 minutes, 34 seconds. Whereas I believe Enter the Dragon was at least an hour and a half. I think the extended original Bruce Lee intended cut was something closer to 2 hours. And yeah, they had a whole bunch of extra little jokes and references to other things. The bad guy opens up his chest of weapons to replace his hand, and one of the things in there is a Godzilla toy. A bunch of name jokes for some of the guards that are about to be killed. Guess what? They're all basically named Schlong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hung Well, Long Wang, and Enormous Genitals were their names.
Again, the classic rule of threes comedy.
I mean,
And-
well, I mean, go ahead.
And Dr. Klon, whose thing is that he's got a fake hand. One of the guards seems to have successfully managed to kiss up enough to save his life. But he finishes off with saying, "Let's give Dr. Klon a great big hand." To which he looks at his fake hand, gets angry, it's like, "Kill him!"
He's like, oh no.
This is a weird segment. There's so many things in this that you can really see other movies took inspiration from. Like there's a little bit of Austin Powers in this. Like you clearly see
Some of
Austin
the
Powers
spy
taking a
moments,
bit of
yeah.
inspiration from this kind of concept. Weird Al's UHF is like
Just
very much kind of in
the
this
parody
sort
of a movie in and of
Yeah.
itself, yeah.
I mean, hell, even some actual other martial arts movies that were more on the comedic side probably
There's
got
one joke in this that they never say anything about, but would be shocked if it wasn't intentional, because the way that the soldiers are dressed, they look like KKK members, and they totally do, because they're like in all white, but then they have that like shield with the cross on it on the left side. I think the joke is that they are Klon's men.
Oh my God!
Oh Lord!
Oh my God! Because
wow.
I've seen the movie, so I knew they were all in white uniforms to begin with, but I actually do not recall them having the shield, etc., on their uniforms. So that could be a bit of a reach, but at the same time, it would make so much sense for a bigger joke.
Especially because his name is literally Clan spelled K with an H stuck in it, so it's a different name. Like you might have caught something that none of us would have ever figured out on our own. There were a lot of other gags though. I just want to go over some of them, like the whole where you see his shadow and he takes down the guard, but then he starts making shadow animals on the wall. The my favorite, well, one of my favorite parts of this was the point where he goes to like the control room where there's these two scientists.
Oh.
He winds up a toy robot, puts it in the door. One of them goes, "A toy robot!" And leaps through the window. And then the other one's like, "A toy robot." Then it just goes, "Eat lead suckers," and shoots the crap out of him.
My favorite joke in this segment was when she's pointing out all the microphones in the
mics.
room, and they just get so much more obvious as it goes on.
Oh, that was what I wanted to point out because that one made me just go. It's like okay, this can't
A
get.
little thing in the flowers. A big
A
obvious
little
thing
thing.
on the
Yeah.
lamp. Just literally a mic standing on top of the bed. A
Oh,
guy in the corner aiming a microphone between the two of them. An entire extra room.
And then dude then just pulls a giant, the speaker mic out of a ring.
But that would be wrong.
Yeah.
Try to dissuade any suspicion on him. Well, the other funny thing, there was after the alarm went off and you're hearing ha 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 ha, and it's actually a guy with a megaphone standing in the hallway.
With a light on top of his head until somebody bumps into him while they're fighting, and he just goes off.
Yeah, it just goes
But
and falls over.
Yeah,
the-
but then another one of them shows up for Klon and starts doing the noise, and he's just like, and quickly starts to do whatever he's
but
gonna do to
actually-
capture him.
Actually, one other best moment for me was definitely the while he was trying to sneak in, the guy that's patrolling, and he just keeps breaking or knocking things down that make loud noises, and the guy just ignores it all.
Yeah, he's literally like he's less than 10 feet away from this guy. And he's breaking glass vases and sculptures and stuff, and the guy just doesn't hear it. And then still it has to be distracted by somebody else to get him out of the way. Yeah, that was. I forgot about that. I had commented that it's like when you're playing a stealth video game and you fuck up, but the AI doesn't respond to you the way it's supposed to, so it didn't matter that you fucked up.
Actually, I made the similar comment because then later with all the guards, or not guards, but all the other martial artists going down the hall to where he is when the alarm is off, is like, well, there's another video game mechanic where you're completely away from all the possible enemies. You accidentally set the alarm, and then all the enemies just know where you are.
Yeah, they just come rushing to your location, even though an alarm going off throughout the compound shouldn't let them know exactly where you are. There was the other. There was the bit where he was fighting the big goon Buttkiss.
Oh.
Which, by the way, the name Buttkiss, or no, was it Bulkus?
I think it was
Focus.
Oh, okay. I felt like I thought it was butt kiss.
I thought, you know what? I think the subtitles said Buttkiss, so I think the subtitles were wrong.
That's a possibility.
But like the name Butt Kiss is you kind of expect them to use, because this movie is not above using that name.
Oh,
Right.
and of course we all laughed when we saw his men getting trained, and we saw they were actually learning the odd job.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They were throwing
yeah.
they were throwing hats at
Two
things
of them
and
like to
breaking
throw
them.
hats that chop off heads.
It's like, where was the class of odd job when I was a kid? I want to learn that.
But the main goon Bulkus, like the main character's name was Lou. He's fighting him, and he beats this guy down repeatedly, and he just keeps getting back up. And there's the one point where he knocks him down, and you don't get like a full camera shot of what's happening, but it's very heavily implied that he leaped up, stomped down on his nuts, and then twisted his foot as he's going like, ah, and the guy just gets up like nothing happens, and you don't actually hear it, but you see him mouth the words, "What the fuck?"
He's like, because he's like, there's no freaking way he should have got up.
Actually, in the original movie for Enter the Dragon, I believe it was Bruce Lee snapping a guy's neck with his foot.
Right, but that's not what was happening here, because
Yeah,
that wasn't
Yeah,
that wasn't
I mean, that would even more what the fuck, but the fact, how did you get up?
Yeah. So then when he gets him down again, he like takes like a huge metal decoration thing and slams it on him to essentially make sure he's dead. Assuming.
Yeah.
And then we finally get Lou versus Dr. Klon, which is where they had the thing where he opens his case, as Matt said, and there was like a Godzilla figurine in there with the actual claw that he puts on.
Mhm.
Where just that whole scene was crazy. Like, Lou gets cut
This
on
was a
both of
bit-
his cheeks.
This was a better Inspector Gadget movie than the Inspector Gadget movie.
That's
'Cause
not
they
that
actually
hard.
made Dr. Claw threatening.
But he gets cut. Lou gets cut on both of his cheeks, and he dodges, and he cuts the wall, and the wall starts bleeding.
Why is the wall bleeding?
Like
Why not?
I'm like the funny thing is that that's something that in a more serious movie would have been done in like a horror movie as like a thing to make you just think it's like creepy, but here it was
Yeah.
just done as a dumb thing that happened.
I mean, I mean, the only thing I could come with, if it wasn't a wall, if it was like one of those sliding doors, and he did it, then he could at least make the comment saying, "Oh, there might have one of his guards was like."
No, but
behind
it was just a dumb joke that the wall was bleeding.
I know. I'm just emphasizing because I'm just really creeped out by a
Yeah.
wall bleeding.
And Matt, what happened when he started using his flamethrower?
Oh god.
Basically, oh yeah, that's right. He got the claw removed, it turned into a flamethrower, and basically it reminds me very heavily of Torch from the Puppet Master movies.
Oh yeah, you're right. I think I completely missed when you said that.
Oh yeah, it very heavily is what inspired Torch. Guarantee it, because it's basically the same big round thing.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact: the model for Torch actually did shoot flames that big. It was pretty huge. They had to encase that thing under behind like bulletproof glass in order to film that thing.
I believe it.
But yeah, no, very much an inspiration for Torch. I almost guarantee it. Somebody was watching this movie.
And then
We'll play past full moon.
then Lou grabs a bucket of water, and they kind of telegraph the joke that's going to happen, where Klon goes, "No, not water, no!" Splashes him, and he starts melting. And he literally says the exact quotes from like the Wicked Witch of the West from Wizard of Oz as he melts into the ground, and then it literally. This is probably just they're like, well, we don't know how to have a serious ending to this skit, or we don't want to have a serious ending to this skit, so it's just suddenly going to turn into the Wizard of Oz. So the guy that hired him comes in and congratulates him, and then he does the "there's no place like home" thing. It teleports into a black and white scene
Where and then suddenly he loses his accent, which is there was a really weird thing, because like usually like in these kung fu movies they have the LR switch, but in this case he has rhoticism where he says R's as W's. So
Yeah.
it's like, what the hell?
And the funny thing is the subtitles still subtitled it like he was saying it properly.
Yeah.
Oh, and the guy who played the doctor in the main movie does still have the flaming hand. We see him actually pulling that.
He actually he's like, "Oh, ignore that," and puts it back behind the wall. And there's just a goofy final send off before we go back to the other skits, where they had the first one after that was it was very obviously a knockoff of Miller beer called Willer beer, where they have
everything
like
over the top.
yeah, where a group of monks
Hare Krishnas, yeah.
that were
Hare Krishna monks.
that had been like trying to like what was they trying to convert people? or
Convert
whatever?
people all
Yeah,
day.
they're just doing their sort of recruiting thing, or I don't know what it would be called for Hare Krishna, but yeah, they're just kind of proselytizing, whatever the term would be.
But they basically just to go relax afterwards, go to a bar and start chugging beer, or like it's like very very typical beer commercial, but with like religious monks who you wouldn't expect to see doing this.
Yeah, right. Because this would normally you would see like people working in the office or construction workers getting off the job, but no, it's monks who just literally do nothing but just stand outside and give pamphlets or asking, "Hey, join my religion."
And then of
The
course
kind
they
of
show
people that you wouldn't normally see drinking. I don't think they are allowed to
Yeah.
drink.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I'm sure they probably also aren't supposed to like grab the asses of random women either.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is
That
very
too.
much in the vein of the UHF sketch with Gandhi.
Which we'll kind of come back to for another skit that's later in this. But my favorite quote from this fake beer commercial was "You're only reincarnated 6 or 7 times in life, so you have to enjoy the best beer."
Oh,
I was like, they had clearly had to do some actual research to come up with that line.
Right.
just a bit.
Then we have another quick news
11.
line about an earthquake that then immediately goes to something else.
I just realized all the the news segments are, even though they're 5 seconds short, they all are related to something just really catastrophic or terrible happening.
Yes.
Nothing terrible has happened.
Aside-
Anyways, moving on.
We'll tell you about it later.
Although I guess you could. I'm not sure if you'd put people having urinated in the popcorn on the same field as a nuclear explosion or an earthquake.
I know,
That's a horrible way to start a movie.
If you're
I'm just
just
saying-
sitting down to watch
Yeah,
a movie.
yeah.
I mean-
Admittedly, for an individual person, they're going to care more that someone peed in their popcorn than the fact that there was an earthquake in another state.
I'm just saying that those segments are basically, oh no, moving on.
Yeah, well, it's like, oh no. Anyway, but again, that's kind of a really common joke. They say these terrible things, but it's like, we'll tell you all about it on the news later because we can't tell you about it now because we're not getting advertising for it now. So we have to tell you about it later.
Yeah, exactly.
And of course, it just brings me
That
to
goes
my
into
mind.
an
That,
advertisement for a board game called Scot Free,
yeah,
where you try to get away with killing JFK.
they don't specify
JFK
that.
assassination.
They don't specify that it was JFK, but it's obviously
Yeah.
it's
Fair
based
enough.
off of that. Very obviously based off of that.
I mean, over the hill, the box arts, the car,
The gun.
that too.
The mentioning of specific individuals.
Yeah, because the
And
JFK
some conspiracy theories
built-
about how the real person might have gotten away with it.
conspiracy theories. They're usually more true than false. Sadly.
You never know. Anyways, after that little quick advert, they go into an advertisement for a movie that's called That's Armageddon.
Oh yeah,
That's what we got.
this is why I literally. I'm sorry. This is my opinion of what inspired Michael Bay to become Michael Bay.
Just lots of explosions.
Well,
Lots of
not even-
explosions, lots of people panicking, and things falling all over the place. And
well, I mean, hell, there's literally a
Other things
scene.
going
There's a
boom.
scene of two people talking like in this serious manner of, it's like, do you love me? Come with me, and there's just
it's
explosions
the
happening all
circular dialogue
around.
going around and around as things just keep
and-
blowing up around them. Yeah.
And that is literally Michael Bay's forte, because that is what happens so much in his movies.
I thought the best.
fact-
I thought the best part was that they looped back around and were repeating the same lines.
They
Yeah,
were,
like,
they were
yeah.
repeating the
The
same lines,
dialogue.
but they were doing them again. They were like reciting the script again, but it wasn't the same audio. They were doing
and
different
oh,
takes
yeah.
of it.
Larry never came out of the room.
Huh?
Larry, the fireman, he
Oh,
goes
yeah.
in.
Left the room, yeah.
Well, they said
and then-
if you go in there, you're surely gonna die. Then he never comes out because obviously the joke is he's dead, but they keep acting like he's gonna come out anyhow.
Yeah, because they keep
Leaving Larry. Okay,
We're sorry, we're sorry, the engine. Come on, Larry.
Maybe they're too afraid to go in there to get him because if they go in, they're not going to come back out.
Actually, because it's funny with that joke, it's because of the very next segment. So I almost got surprised that they didn't have Larry come back out because
Should
the
also
next
mention
one-
that That's Armageddon features Donald Sutherland as the clumsy waiter and George Lazenby as the architect,
oh yeah,
as stuff
But-
drops on his head.
yeah.
I tell you, this building is unsafe. Ah!
Well, he wasn't wrong.
The next skit after this though is just fucking creepy.
Yeah, that's why I was mentioning about the
Ooh,
Harry thing.
yeah, this one was some grim dark humor.
United Appeal for the Dead, where just because there's ways to prepare for death, and just because you're dead doesn't mean that your family can't enjoy your company or whatever. They have a dead kid just sitting there while they're watching TV while
All these
they're having
family
dinner.
activities.
Floating
In
in
the
the
pool, at the ball
pool.
game, yeah.
It's just like it has to say like how to prevent or how to know when death is coming. The smell of decay, flesh is
Rigor
rotting.
No,
mortis.
rigor mortis.
Rigor mortis. Yeah.
Things to do when you're dead. Don't move. Don't drive a car. Don't talk.
And after that, they go to the courtroom where a dead
Oh,
woman
God.
is the one that finds the actual killer.
This was a weird segment, and it went on a bit too long, honestly.
I don't think really. I thought it was actually pretty decent enough.
It was a little thin, but I will say the end felt pretty good.
Yeah, the end felt pretty good, but of course the other standout thing is just the fact that Wally and Beaver Cleaver are just randomly in
In
the
the back
audience.
room audience,
Yeah, Jerry Zucker and Tony Dow.
it's just like okay, they're there.
And they get into trouble in the jury.
Also, there's a random dildo being held by the prosecutor or the defendant. Or,
One of the lawyers.
It was
and he
one of the
starts
it
using it
was
as
one
the
of the
unicorn
lawyers.
horn.
The way they were handling the questioning, they actually made it kind of easy to get confused about which one was supposed to be which, because
right,
they'd be like badgering their own client.
right.
They'd be objecting to themselves.
Yeah,
Which, funny enough, happened not that long ago in a big court case.
Oh yeah, and Beaver and Wally went to bed without supper.
Yep.
Clearly, the worst thing to happen that day.
the whole punchline at the end though was when she's like, I see the man here in the crowd, and then she's like, him, no, not him, and they're going along, and then finally it's the narrator who's been narrating the whole fucking court segment.
Or the newscast, yeah. So
Yeah,
they grab
he's-
him and he's accused of murder and he's sentenced to jail. By the way, again, accused by a dead woman who's still sitting there giving testimony.
Funny that came after the United People of the Dead.
And in the middle of this court segment, they had a really this bothered Ojunix a lot, where they had a commercial for cooking oil. They're like, "What's going on, honey? Oh, the daughter's cooking the cat in pure Nessun oil," and you just hear rear, 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 rear.
It's just such a short segment that's apropos of nothing, but it's just so dark.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I do not like seeing.
Even though it was clearly a stuffed animal or something.
I know.
It's not a very good effect, which I guess is kind of the saving grace to this.
Yeah, that's the saving grace to this, because that's
I-
very dark humor, and as long as you're going completely slow schlock with it, you can get away with it.
Let's just say I remember seeing a scene from a famous movie back in the day about a poor rabbit.
Oh,
Oh.
I know that movie. Yeah,
Yeah,
turned into
yeah,
stew.
just that kind of traumatized me.
That sent poor Unix back.
On a more positive
Welcome
note,
back to-
more positive note. This is what I was. This next one is what I was talking about. When we'll get to it later. When the mention of the Gandhi skit from UHF, where this skit was Cleopatra Schwartz.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas
There we go.
this tough as nails black woman who's married to like a Hasidic Jew or whatever,
Mhm.
or where he's this old rabbi with a beard, and just ridiculous because they're showing her beating the shit out of all these guys, shooting guys, and then he's like just learning all the stuff about his religion, and then supposedly they get married. And then they show him helping her a couple times where he bashes a guy in the back of the head with a bottle, and then she's using the chain gun or
A machine gun, and he's helping load the chain of ammunition.
Yeah, it's like a mounted machine gun, and he's
I mean, it says
holding it.
parody of blaxploitation films, but
Yeah.
honestly, that doesn't seem all that different from an actual blaxploitation movie.
Not really, and
Outside of the over-the-top significant other, yeah, it's pretty much a exploitation.
Yeah,
film.
it's just that it's considerably shorter because it's not actually film length.
Yeah.
right, it was just funny because you see them both very satisfied in bed. I'm like, well, you know what? For a Jew, he's very loyal to his wife, helping him in a job.
I don't know if you wanted to phrase that way, I'm sure you. I know you
Yeah.
didn't mean anything by it, but just
Yeah,
be careful
I-
when using that word.
yeah, you're right. Sorry,
He's
I-
not a Jew. He's Jewish.
Jewish, Jew.
There's
Yeah,
not nothing specific about Jewish people that mean they wouldn't be good husbands. So
I know.
I know you didn't mean it that way. I know you didn't. I'm just pointing out that
A chutzpah on this
for
boy.
anyone listening, because you kind of really
Yeah.
flubbed your words there.
Yeah, I did. Sorry.
You mean for an older gentleman more
Oh,
than
Jim,
anything,
thank you.
more than anything.
Yeah,
Because he was
That's
clearly
He'd
like
probably
way
done
older
more
than her.
damage trying to just. He'd probably done more damage trying to damage control that line than just glossing over it.
Oy vey.
Oy vey indeed.
Kayam.
Moving on. Zinc oxide.
Zinc oxide and you.
This
This one I
segment.
thought was hilarious because it's basically exactly like one of the. There actually is a parody film from The Simpsons for of like the Wonderful World of Zinc.
Oh yeah, I think I remember that one.
Actually, funny enough, they also mention it in here is that there's a short that Mystery Science Theater made fun of called "A Case of Spring Fever," where everything that is involved with the item, in this case, zinc oxide, just starts disappearing as soon as you try to use it.
Yeah.
So literally, this woman's house starts on fire. The car crashes through the door, or through the wall. Actually, her
And most
son
devastating of all, she
fell.
loses her
Her,
bra.
yeah, her son
Yeah.
accidentally shoots himself because the safety on the gun disappeared.
She
Why-
loses. Yeah, she loses her bra. She loses her curtain rod. She loses the sand in order to put out the fire.
Her husband's peacemaker stops working.
And her fake leg falls off.
I'm just thinking, like, they start with police officer, farmer, and then housewife, and the housewife is the only one that seems to be suffering.
Well, no, I'm pretty sure the son.
showcasing through her how all these things are important.
Well,
I
yeah,
know.
she's not the only one suffering. Her son's bleeding to death on the floor.
And her husband is probably
Yeah.
dying.
Yeah, as their house has almost virtually collapsed. They end the segment with next time on whatever, rebuilding your home.
I expected that segment is this. You just see their charred bodies on the floor.
Well, you see that they're cleaning up the charred bodies and then
Yeah.
fixing the house.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, speaking of saying things to get yourself in trouble, the next one,
Oh, jeez, yeah.
Danger Seekers.
This is you were
Oh,
saying before, like, what else could they have ended on? They probably should have ended on this sketch.
Yeah, because this would have been a better ender than the actual news skit they did after this. But it's basically this guy that's shown, this thrill seeker that,
Basically evil
brave
people.
man that faces danger. He literally just walks in the middle of a group of black guys that are just minding their own business and yells the N-word as loud as he can and runs away as they start to chase him.
I mean, it is accurate.
Yeah,
He
that
needs to
is
suit
that,
up as a daredevil to
that
do
is exactly what would happen if you did that.
Oh, fun fact: Rex Kramer, the guy who was supposedly the daredevil that introduced the bit, is also the same name of one of the characters from Airplane.
Yeah.
Huh.
Also,
Many
ironically,
of the writers ended up working on Airplane.
this is really weird, but in a way, this is almost like future prophecy. The actor that played Kramer on Seinfeld, what did his career end up getting ended over?
Mm.
The fact that he yelled the N-word at some hecklers at his comedy routine.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Like,
didn't
it's
know that.
just interesting that the name Kramer is there, and somebody that played a character named Kramer later would end his career.
That's not
with
how
the
you say
N-word.
the. That's not how you say the N-word. Here, let's have the other Kramer show you how to say the N-word.
That's
Boom, boom, boom.
I don't. That's just a really thing that I just thought of because I'm seeing the name Rex Kramer, and I'm like, wait a minute. I can't even remember the name of Kramer's actor off the top of my head.
Michael Richards.
Michael Richards.
He was also on UHF, so the other UHF connection there.
Yeah.
That. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
This movie unintentionally predicted the end of that man's career before it happened.
Yeah.
Um,
Weird
I
happenstance.
consider this next one the final skit because the 11 o'clock news thing that hits right before the credits. It's 9 seconds. I don't count that.
Yep.
There's a skit where there's two people making out, and for some reason the girl's like, "We need to turn the news on. The news is going to be on," which is like a really weird thing to care about when you're getting ready to fornicate.
Do the deed. Yeah.
Well, maybe she just wants to stay informed.
I was gonna say maybe that's just for
Maybe that's her kink. Maybe she gets off on hearing like liberal wins because they just talk about all those strikes going on and stuff. She's like, yeah, go for it, leftist. Maybe that's her kink.
But the big gag here ends up being that there's some very heavy fourth wall breaking in this skit.
oh yeah.
Where like the guy reporting the news kind of like starts breaking the fourth wall because he could see them making out and doing all this, and he like waves another guy over, and this guy's like, oh my, he has this look like, oh my God, on his face as he's looking at them, and so you've got like 4 or 5 guys piled up on the screen that are all watching them getting busy, and they're all hooting and hollering. It's
Yeah.
They almost get caught. At one point, they go back to the news really quickly, and as they get back to it, they start getting rambunctious again and keep watching, and then fight, and it's basically looking like they all, finished.
I was gonna say, who finished first, the boyfriend or the TV?
And the funny thing is, going back to the why did she care so much about turning on the TV for the news is like, she obviously wasn't paying attention if neither of them noticed what was happening.
Mm.
This is kind of a gag back on the fact that why did she even want the TV turned on at all? Let's just,
Maybe
then
she
again,
wanted him to watch.
some people just need background noise for some stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, unless this is some kind of, I don't know, in joke towards there's a term for people who like to be watched during
Warriors, exhibitionists.
Exhibitionist.
That.
Which
I mean,
I guess if you really think into it with the whole fourth wall breaking thing, I guess that can kind of make sense. I was just gonna say not related to this specifically, but like I remember back when I used to play MMOs, I always had the fucking TV on while I was doing that.
Yeah, I was the same way. I like when I used to play Minecraft like a shit because I was like working on like projects and things in Minecraft, but I would just have like TV shows on. I went through like the entirety of Married with Children as for like over the couple weeks.
So yeah, and the actual final next to non-existent skit is just the man announcing that he's not wearing any pants.
Yeah, we aren't even really paying attention at that point.
Which that technically is kind of a running joke in other comedies because I feel like that's a line that's sometimes just randomly thrown in.
I'm Ron Burgundy and I'm not wearing pants.
I think that like the end credits music had already started playing when he
Element
said
11.
it too.
It definitely felt like it, so in a way it's probably kind of hard to notice it if you're not really paying attention.
But yeah, I think TZ had a good point that the Danger Seekers skit would have been a better like finale than the eyewitness news gag.
Yeah, you have like the eyewitness news, and then you go into the Danger Seekers,
and just have a man fleeing for his life, and then credits.
Yeah, that probably would. Yeah, I go along with that.
We just need to travel back in time and tell them to do it that way.
Tell them to edit it differently.
Very much.
Oh yeah, special features included with versions of this movie. Feature-length conversation with David and Jerry Zucker, the creators of Kentucky Fried Movie, Airplane, and Naked Gun.
Oh, I did not realize that. Oh wow.
Yeah, the people who made this were like really big folks in the industry. Well, go on to be really big folks in the industry. They ended up doing Animal House and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So was this their first movie?
must have been
Probably first
Yeah.
major release.
first major one. Yeah,
It sure feels like it.
Yeah. No. The funny. It's funny. I literally just watched the Naked Gun trilogy like a couple weeks ago. Which was weird because I can't, until I started rewatching those, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot O.J. Simpson was in these.
Oh, did not know that.
O.J. Simpson was originally considered to play the Terminator, but the producers didn't believe him as a killer. That sounds like a joke, but it's actually kind of half true. I believe when they were like talking about like who they want to play the Terminator is like we want kind of a very stoic, stone-faced, tough guy, kind of looking like O.J. Simpson.
Well, I'm really glad they went with Arnold instead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. And
So, final thoughts on this movie.
yeah,
Yeah, let's get out of the awkward moment.
yeah. We'll go down the line. OG Unix, what are your final thoughts?
I'd say it was really short. I mean, I had laughs, can't complain.
I wouldn't even really say it was that short. It just maybe feels like it because these
It
segments
feels
are
very
so short.
because it's just a whole bunch of little segments.
That's what I mean. It feels short, because in a way, with some movies you can always kind of in a way feel like, this feels long or this feels short. This felt short.
Right.
But otherwise, a good time.
What about you, TZ?
I kind of slipped into saying a lot of my thoughts earlier, but this movie very much feels like sort of a grindhouse. Just you put this on with some friends, maybe get a couple of beers in you, and then this is just a phenomenal, just dumb comedy that you really have to. Just the kind of humor in this is. It sets it off right off the bat. It's like, yeah, this is the kind of humor that you're in for. If you're not into this type of humor, you won't like this movie. But if you don't have a stick up your ass, if you're willing to just kind of get indulged in the bluest, dumbest shit. There's a lot of good stuff in this. Yeah.
Matt?
I recommend with a room full of like-minded, twisted individuals. As we cut to the scene from Friday the 13th, Part 6, where the gravedigger is burying what he thinks is still Jason's body. Some people have a twisted sense of humor. Keep shoveling the dirt.
Man. Yeah, I'm watching this was my idea, so obviously I love this movie. Like, the thing is, when I originally tried to find this movie like a few years ago, I actually had to research what it was because I had remembered watching it, but like my brain just remembered Fistful of Yen as a separate. It's just its own movie. I didn't remember that it was part of like
Part of
a
all of it.
wider thing of sketches. I thought that was just a movie because the thing is I just remembered I was having a conversation with somebody about like villains and stuff, and I remembered the whole "let's give Dr. Klon a big hand" and then him getting pissed at having the guy killed because of it. And I remembered that, and I'm like, wait, what movie was that from? And like, I can't even remember how I found it, but obviously I figured out it was from a segment in this, so I bought it on Blu-ray, and then we watched it together tonight. So, yeah, I obviously love this movie. I recommend it to anyone that just likes crazy, lol, random stuff, like the old Monty Python stuff, or
Yeah,
like UHF.
Monty Python, UHF, The Onion movie has a very similar DNA as this. So if you like any of those, you should like this movie.
Yeah.
And with that, I say we are wrapping it up. So until next time, everybody, have a good one.
Later.
Take care, everybody.
Good night.